Welcome to another episode of This Works for Us podcast. And we have the lovely Daniels on. This is Fummie and Ovie Daniels, correct? All right. I want to make sure I got it correct because that is something I don't want to mess up anyone's name. And obviously, feel free to correct me at any time. So, what we like to do before we actually get going with the questions and things is we have a icebreaker question. And that question is, hope y'all ready for it. It is,
Yeah, we're ready.
what's the most ridiculous argument or discussion that you've had that you can laugh about now?
Interesting. Oh, what can I remember?
Okay.
I think I can remember the one that. So my sister and I were not. Were my sister got me angry, and I wanted to reply her. I wanted to just speak my mind and talk to her about it, but she was trying to prevent me from because she knew I was angry and she felt I was going to act in a way that was going to bring more, cause more damage to the relationship with my sister. So she was preventing me. I should not do it. I said, "Don't stop me. I'm going to send a message. I'm going to tell her my mind." She was stopping me. I'm like, "No, are you not going to stand in my way? Please don't do this." So at the point, I just realized that the quarrel that was meant to be for my sister, and now transferred it to her. So it was not like we now brought the issue between the both of us. Meanwhile, I was angry with somebody else and everything. Looking back, and I'm like, why did we have to get that angry and the rest?
So, I think if I'm going to think of one, it will do with so we had to move. We had to move from where like move from one state to another here in Nigeria. So when he told me about the move, right, I didn't like it. I am one person that I don't like. He's quite spontaneous in nature. I'm not. I'm the prepare me ahead, right? So it's like he just comes out of the blues and it's like, we're moving, da da da. And I'm like, oh, now it's a different case if you are the only one moving. We as a family, it's a big deal. So I was really upset about it. I remember getting so angry. I'm like, you, this is the thing I don't like. You are always so spontaneous. And he's like, well, if you're ready to get on board, get on board. And if you're not, but at the end of the day, I had to pray about it and I felt a release in my heart that it was a good move. So looking back now, right, moving and being here, I laugh about it because it's like God just orchestrated the move. Like we were really supposed to move. And I look at the ridiculousness of having to
Yeah.
fight over it. Like it was really not worth the whole stress. So that's one thing I can really point to.
This
The
one
beauties
here.
of the beauties of marriage, right? You I like to think now that we've a little bit more seasoned. I ask myself, is it worth it? Is it worth the conversation or the argument, or is this something that I could just like put to bed? So now, as we're a little bit more seasoned, I'm like, that's not even a conversation I want to. I even want to have. I'm just gonna do what it needs to. Yeah,
called, called wisdom. A lot
yeah.
of wisdom in that.
True.
Wow, that's
So
sweet.
tell us how long you guys been married and any kids?
Yeah, we've been married we're going to be 9 years this month. 13th of this month, we're going to be 9 years married.
Nice.
And yes, we have two boys, two very active
Yes.
boys. So, like, I had a delay in conception, I had some issues, fertility issues and all of that, but God miraculously took care of that. And so I have my boys. The first one is 5 going on 6. The other one is 3 going on 4. So they have this 2 year gap. But they don't act like there's a 2 year gap between us. So 9 years is not
Keep
Uh,
a
you
lot.
busy,
A
you
yeah,
lot has
know.
happened.
we have we have two girls ourselves, 1 7 and 1 5, and they are keeping us busy.
Yes.
Right now, they're doing us a solid by staying in their rooms and letting us do what we do right now.
Yes.
Interesting.
Wow.
So how long have you been married?
So
This year,
12.
well, it'll be 12, and it'll be 13 in November.
November.
Wow,
Wow, that's
wow,
beautiful.
that's nice.
Kudos.
Over a decade. Well
You know what
done.
I'm saying?
And it doesn't
Kudos.
even feel
Everyone that
like
makes
it.
it
That's the
past 10
blessing in
years.
it all. It doesn't even feel like it's been that long.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been.
Wow, you guys don't even look like you've been there that long.
Well, thank you.
You guys
Well,
look like you
appreciate
just
it.
started.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the way we met. You know, God has done some amazing things in our lives, and we met on a Memorial Day weekend back in 2009. Like, she was visiting down in Florida, I was living in Florida, so it was just I mean, God just ordained it for us to just meet up and just start talking. So crazy how that happened for us.
So
So
how did y'all meet?
Okay, so funnily, we attended the same high school, but while we were in high school for 6 years, it was a boarding school, so we stay and live on campus there. But we didn't know each other. But she knew me, I didn't know her. So when we graduated, it was more than 10 years later. I think it was more than 10 years later.
More than way more
Um,
than 10.
I got to find out something. She used to post some things on Facebook, some write ups, and she had been listening to a pastor that I also loved, Joseph Prince from Singapore. She had been listening to him and to some of the things she had been hearing and some of the books she had been reading. She had been writing some things on Facebook. So when I saw it, I loved what she was writing, and I think she put her then when BlackBerry was still on, she put her BB pin, and I think I added her, but it was
Yeah,
just
you
there, so there
did.
was no contact. So one of the days, she saw my status or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, your
and
DP.
she reached out. And the moment we spoke from day one,
Day
I just
one.
knew she was the one. And funnily, there was somebody else that I was liking at that time, and I was hoping the relationship was going to work. But there was this thing about it that it wasn't just working. And I remember the night before we spoke, myself and I were agreed, okay, let's pray about it. You go pray to God, I'll pray to God, and we'll come back in the morning. You tell me what God told you, and I'll tell you what God told me. And it happened that the following morning, when I called her, she said she slept off. And I said, I also slept off. And I said, okay, fine. So that means that we should just let this friendship just be friendship. And it was that morning or later that evening, Sheena called, reached out to me, chatted, sent me a message, and I called her. The moment we spoke, I just said, oh, thank God that one did not work out. This is obviously the person for me. And I just knew she was the one. And that's how we connected again.
How God
that's
works,
beautiful.
right?
How long did you date before you got married?
1 year, 6 months. Well, just a 1 year, 5 months, really, because we started January 2014 and we got married June 2015. So let's say 1 year, 5 months, thereabout.
You knew. You already knew. There was no need to wait. When you know, you know.
Oh, there was no need. I knew from day one, right? From To be honest, from the first conversation, I knew it was the one. Of course, I was looking out for other things. Like, you just have to still watch and pray, you understand? So, of course, I was watching, I was observing. Okay, what are the things that might be a source of concern? What are the things we need to sort out? All of that. But I just knew that if we both put in the work, this would work. I knew that
Yeah.
it was a knowing. So when he proposed, I wasn't shocked. It was a case of it took you this long.
Yeah.
I know. I already knew. I wasn't even trying to. And the moment we spoke and we struck, I wasn't even giving any other person an eye, right? So I was focused. I wasn't like dancing around looking that okay, let me have someone else on the side. Just him all the way.
Awesome.
That's good. That's
So
good.
you two have a podcast together?
Well, what we do is that we just do videos together and we post it on YouTube, right? But not like maybe we have this structured because we just got a quite busy lately. So, like when I was even telling him about this, this is actually a dream we also had. We both, where we knew we were going to really go into the family life arena. We One of the things that came to us is that we're going to interview couples who have been married for a while, but specifically couples that have had to deal with major stuff in marriage, so people can know that the fact that you go through the highs and the lows in your marriage doesn't mean that you should opt out. So we had that. In fact, it was from there we got the name This Marriage Thing. He was the one that actually came up with the name, not me. I just happen to be more active
Mhm.
on the page than him because he's quite busy. Like this period has been very busy. So, but we both now has began to talk about going back to it and taking it a lot more seriously together now as a unified force, and doing this together. So
And also watching you guys also inspired me that hey, let's do this thing, let's do it, let's do it.
I was just gonna say, I mean, the exact thing that you said is the
Mhm.
reason why we started the podcast, because there's so many people who are so quick to decide that they can't do it anymore.
Mhm.
I don't like what you said to me. I don't like, I we had a fight and it's over. It's time to
Right,
get a
right.
divorce. Like whatever happened to, making it work? Whatever happened to trying? Whatever happened to honoring the covenant that you made before God? And so we
Yeah.
really wanted to
so right.
highlight, like, even though there's things going on in the marriage,
Mhm. Mhm.
you can really work through this thing if you try, if you make the effort.
Yeah, yeah. You're so right. I mean, when I talk to couples today, one of the things I tell them, especially those who escalate issues of communication, conflict, and they're like, my spouse does not listen to me, doesn't want to reason with me, I'm done. By the time I tell them that the first 3 years, I can still remember that of our marriage, that was our main issue. It almost seemed like we couldn't just meet ourselves in the middle. Like the conflict was intense. We had communication. I mean, it was just not fun at all. And he had the impression I wasn't submissive.
No,
I
it's not
was
like I had the impression you were not submissive.
you know I am quite I'm very opinionated. I'm someone that if I believe something, I believe it. You have to do a lot to change my perception of something. So that strong opinionated attribute
Sorry.
tends to so cut off on him, like I'm not submissive because I have my own view. Hear my view. So we had a lot of that. We battled that a lot. So when I tell couples that now, looking back, both of us have been able to learn, unlearn, relearn, learn how to, you don't have to win up all arguments,
Right.
Right.
right? You just have to listen to the other person. Even if you feel the other person isn't right, there's another time
Yeah.
to have the conversation in a more relaxed atmosphere. It doesn't have to lead to you steaming up. And also, may I began to look at it that look as you grow,
Mhm.
right? As you mature, there are certain things you have to
Yes.
drop
Right,
off.
right.
You just have to drop it off as you grow. And so with maturity comes a lot of growth in that area. And that has really helped us. So when I say that to people, they're like, are you serious? You mean you battled? They say, yeah. But here I am counseling you. So what makes you feel tomorrow you won't be in my position helping other couples? So stick to it. You don't have to jump out of the moving
Right.
vehicle.
Right.
It can still
Absolutely.
work.
What did you guys do to help you get through that time? That rough 3 years of.
Okay, so I think for me, I've always had this mindset, or both at the beginning, that when we're going to this marriage, there was no option of divorce, there was no option of separation. So we knew.
Mm-mm.
Then I've always had this mindset that okay, since I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, it means that I let's do the best we can to make the atmosphere friendly and nice. Because since we're going to settle, why drag this whole
Mhm.
thing? Why keep having issues? Why trying to get back at you, or why trying to do something in a way to make you feel the pain because I really want to get back at you and the rest. When in my mind we still have to settle. So, and I realized also that the atmosphere we create in a home
Hmm.
matters.
Yeah.
So I also believe so strongly that there's a devil that is waiting for opportunity to come in. So
Yeah.
as much as possible, I don't want to give him the
Right.
opportunity. So we try
That's
sometimes just
right.
like, no, let me just forgive me. Sometimes I feel like, oh, she hurt me. I want to give to her back. But I tell myself, no, there's an active devil looking for an opportunity. So I'm not going to give him that opportunity. And then also, I just also believe that one of the things that also helped us is our Christian
Hmm.
values.
Yeah.
So we know that we have to forgive each other. We know we cannot insult each other. We know we cannot use words like "you're crazy," "are you mad," and all those stuff. So we can't
Yeah.
use it. So as much as possible, we understand that. Then lastly, I would say that in the early part of our marriage, when we used to have those issues, we had already agreed before then that whenever the issue is beyond what we can solve on our own,
Mm-hmm.
we are allowed, each of us are allowed to go talk to our pastor without the permission of the other person. And our pastor, we believe that he was going to be objective enough to call us and advise us. So
Yeah.
sometimes, because I also don't want him to look like we are messing up. I also don't want to. But if I feel we have to, and when I tell her that, hey, pastor is calling you, she also doesn't like it too. So sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
puts us on check that okay, let's do the best we can do so we don't have to. But at least there were times we had to go talk to him and he helped us because we believe that also wisdom comes from someone
Hmm.
else. It's also better when we're trying to put. So I think those things helped us
You
really
know,
well.
one.
So for me, I would say, I would say, my pastor was also instrumental. He made a statement to me once when I reached out to him. I remember that day. I can't remember what happened. That's the funniest thing. I can't remember exactly what happened right now, but I know I was crying over the phone. I called him and he began to laugh. Like he was just laughing. And I'm like, you're laughing at my predicament. And he said, for how long are you gonna do this? I said, but I need you to address it. He said, okay, you have a choice. Um, do you want to enjoy this marriage or do you want to endure the
Hmm.
marriage? I said, of course, I want to enjoy it. He said, you see this thing you're escalating right now? I bet you're still going to be there 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because it's not going to go off
Yeah.
immediately. But you can decide how you respond to it. And he was right.
Sorry.
In fact, some of those things are still there right now, but I've had to learn to choose
Yes.
my battles. Is it worth it? Is it something that is going to destroy us? Is it something that is going to cause us not to be in line with God's plan for our lives? Is it going to affect our family unit, our values? As long as it's not touching any of
Mm.
those things, I don't think it's worth the stress. I can turn a blind eye. I do selective amnesia a lot. I will just turn a blind, like I will ignore and act like it's not there. And so that really helped me. Then also, I think for me lately, right now, I just began to say it's human.
Mhm.
In as much as, yes, in church, they tell us we're spirit beings, but we're human beings. So we're not perfect. So I have to tell myself, I'm not dealing with a perfect human being, just as I am not perfect. It's going to mess up. Even if it's cool right now, it's going to mess up tomorrow. So what do? I forgive in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgave in advance. So I don't act shocked anymore, like because you did this. Yes, I can be hurt, right? I can still tell him this thing you did hurt me, but it doesn't come with the intensity of emotion that used to come back then. Like, how could you do this? It doesn't. Like I've worked on myself so much. I'm like, my joy, my peace, my sanity is not revolved around him. I am in control. All right. I might not be happy with what he's doing, but I'm in control of how I respond. I can choose to respond in grace, I can choose to respond in love, and I can choose to respond in anger. It's a choice. So I just choose to respond
Yeah.
in love. I choose to respond with grace. I choose to pray for him in that area that I feel like it's really getting at me. I do that a lot. And over time, it's not immediate. Over time, I begin to see the changes. So I think that helped me a lot to really transition out of the old bwaha of the we're having all those issues to this place of calmness. And also, when you experience this peace in your home, you don't want to go back there,
Right.
really. So, like, you're gonna do everything you can to keep this going. Like, this piece is saying, my children don't have to see me and their dad, heated arguments, all of that. Yeah, so that is what's protecting and fighting for.
Well, I think one of the most important things that you guys mentioned is, during that time of conflict, you guys reached out to someone, which is your pastor. And oftentimes, couples don't want to get that type of, like, maybe counseling or going to someone such as the Word of God to get the the lessons that God has set out for us, or the rules that set out for marriage in the first place. One of the things our pastor has said to us is that, obviously we were both successful singles. And when you bring those two together to become one, there's things that you have to, die to. Like, you got to die to yourself. So a lot of that, he says, self destroys the mission. So when you think it's all about me, and not we, not speaking French. But that's what, again, that's what messes up the unity of marriage. We're supposed to operate in faith, in love, and in unity. So that's the things that we, prioritize in our marriage and things. So to go with what you guys have been doing, some of the, I guess, premarital counseling with couples, what are some of the, I guess, main things that people have come to you guys about to, you know, seek guidance for?
Okay, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you answer that question. Since they asked it to me so many
Okay.
times.
So first, it's conflict, communication issues. Communication issues. Communication issues. It's like I still had one today, right? I still had a lady, a random lady, she just saw me online. She sent me a message, and it's the same thing, communication issues, almost leading to a breakup right now. So, and I think it's because I'm beginning to blame it a lot more on what people are tending to feed themselves. And what that means is a lot of people have the mindset that marriage is automatic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm married now, it's going to
Yeah.
work. And like I told someone, you have to, just the same way when you get into school, you have to study.
Hmm.
You signed up for a course, right? You have to study. You have to study. It's the same way when you get married, you have to study what makes marriage work. What can I do to make this marriage work? So a lot of times people get married and they don't work on their communication skills. Now, I want to tell my husband, right? I don't like how you put my phone there. I can tell him, Ove, I call him by his name, right? So I can say, Ove, why did you put my phone there? I don't like it. Or I can say, but my phone being here sometimes, it can actually scratch. Please, next time, can you try to put it this way? Same thing I'm trying to
Hmm.
communicate,
Yeah.
different language. And that's the problem.
Yeah. How
That's
you say it.
always the problem. So a lot of times they come to me with that. So when we begin to talk about the skills of communication, they begin to realize that, oh, so I have been the one causing the problem. And guess what? Sometimes it's even the ones that
Yeah.
reach out trying to blame their that have the problem. It's so funny, right? It's even the ones that reach out because they reach out with this fix my spouse. I always watch out for that. The moment you come with that approach of fix my spouse, I know you have problem. I am just waiting to help you diagnose it. So that's one. The second thing is sex issues, right? Sex issues that also border down to
Mm.
infidelity. There's a lot of that going on in marriage. A lot of there are silent betrayals
Mm.
in that area, right? It's almost because now sex is common. Sex has been
Hmm.
commonized, right? So I was having a conversation with a guy who's married, and that's the issue they're having. And up until the time we are having the session, he didn't even think he did anything wrong.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh yeah, that's how amazing.
Yeah.
I have to use that word amazing that is. He didn't even know is doing anything
Mm.
wrong. To him, it felt like I've known this. I saw it. I saw the pattern. My dad was like that. So big
Yeah.
deal.
Mm.
So he was expecting the wife to suck it up. Like, I'm there for you as a husband. I'm caring for you, the child. So why make an issue? So I had to school him. I had to involve my husband. We had to school
Yes.
him on the responsibility of a husband
Yeah.
in the home before he began to change. So, I did a post today on the mindset you get into marriage with. So, a lot of people have the
Yeah.
twisted
Mm-hmm.
mindset, which now brings about these issues. So, infidelity, sex issues where husband and the wife, now they might not be having affairs, but they just don't have that connection. The intimacy is on zero. But when you now narrow down, you begin to discover some issues like finance,
Yes.
money
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
issues. There's money issues, so heaps of debts, the wife is not trusting of the husband, money, skills, all those things happening. The wife is feeling frustrated. In fact, a man sent me a mail yesterday. The wife packed the kids, left the house, and she ain't coming back. She went, our case is even funny, right? Because she went ahead, she took the kids. She didn't have a job when she was with the guy. She got a job. She began to finance herself, got a place, and told the guy to not look for them, have anything to
Wow.
do with them. And had been married for over a decade. So issues like that. So it's really it's really quite
Yes.
intense when we put everything together: the communication issue, sex issue, infidelity, the money issue. Those four are very key. That people, by the time we're done, those are
Yeah.
the issues
Yeah.
that we dig out.
Wow.
That and that's been a common, especially the communication.
Mm-hmm.
As we've interviewed or talked to different couples and stuff, communication is key. So I like to think of it as one of those things that that's what you're supposed to do. It's kind of like when we did a this financial course. People know to save, but they don't know how to save. So to help them to learn how to communicate will definitely help fill out all the gaps with everything else. But sometimes, like you brought up the sex part, they don't want to be honest with their spouse about how they're feeling. If you just communicate that openly, you might get somewhere with them, like, oh, I didn't know you like that, or whatever the case is. And that's key. So I guess what are some of the pointers you've told them in the session? How to really get past that, how to really fortify that relationship to help overcome those the communication, the sexual infidelity, the finances.
Okay, so the first thing I even do is I make them see your marriage is like a house. Every house has windows and has a door and an emergency exit, right? So the difference is that when it comes to your marriage, you're going to shut the door. You see the key? You're going to toss it where you will never find. You're going to close the windows. You're going to lock it in such a way that you can't open it. When there's a fire outbreak, you know there's no escape, right? You have to put out the
Mm.
Mm,
fire so you don't jump out. So that is like an awakening for people. Like, my bulb isn't working. I don't move out because my bulb
Right.
isn't working. I fix the bulb. So let us face the problem. Let's not generalize. It's easy to say my husband is this. It's very you can be so general. Why? Because you're hurting,
mm-hmm.
right? But when you sit down and diagnose the problem, what is feeding this? What is causing this? What is making your husband spend money anyhow? Why? Then when we now begin to drill, you might now find out that okay, he grew up in a family where money is supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
spent.
Yes.
So he's a
Yeah.
spendthrift. He doesn't have any other blueprint to work with. So that's the only one he's used to, and that is what he has mastered. So, which means he has to unlearn that and understand that look, if you're talking about the future, you must actually start working towards it now. So, I begin to help them narrow down deeper to the main issues. Don't generalize. Don't be too quick to assume that this person is a bundle of case. What are the issues? So, like a couple that signed up for couple therapy, right? I've not even started with them. and they have this 9-page form that they fill when they sign up. So the lady sent me a message this evening that the form is triggering them. Like they're having to come to, because the
Yeah.
diagnosis. I'm asking you, I'm not dancing
Mhm.
around it. If you're talking about infidelity, I'm gonna ask you, when last, how, who, those kind of, let's deep. So she was like, it's triggering her, it's triggering out. They spent a week
Mm.
to fill the
Mm.
form. She just sent ours in. Her husband hasn't even sent his. So I told her, I said, I would be shocked if it doesn't trigger you. It's supposed to
Yeah.
trigger
Mhm.
you. It's the essence. It's like when you're with a doctor, you have an appointment. There are things the doctor will say that will get to you because, oh, this is wrong with you, that is wrong with you.
Yeah.
So I begin to help them to get to the major issues. And by the time they get to the major issues, it's much more easy to resolve. So if it is money issue, what is the issue? Your husband is not saving. Okay, can he get a mentor in this area? Right? Is there somebody that he can learn from? Okay, are you better with money? Fine. Can you handle the savings of the house? Can you, that he doesn't have access to? All right. Or if your husband is irresponsible, have an account he doesn't know exists
Mhm.
and put money there so you and your kids don't suffer. I go that far.
Mm.
I go that far because in Africa here where we are, there's a lot of abuse in that
Mm.
area, right? There's a lot of abuse in that area. So we have more cases here of women who are being abused by their husbands, and by the time they even leave the married, they leave with
Mm.
nothing because the husband, yeah, they do. You guys are privileged, really. Here, it's not that easy. So I mean, especially for a wife who doesn't have anything doing per se, so she ends up being stranded. She ends up not having anything. So it's like she's having to struggle, hustle herself through life, also to take care of the kids. So I tell them, you cannot afford to depend on this man. He has shown you responsibility. If you still want to stay in the marriage, it's fine. I'm not going to force you out. But you see, get in our, let me use our own lingua, get brain, have sense, get an account, put money there. He doesn't have to know. When I told the lady, she was like, I didn't even know that. I said, what? Because she was making money. She told me a child goes to school without snacks. Which child goes to school without snacks, without food? So the child is crying. Why? She makes money. She tells this guy. The guy takes the money from her, spends the money. She's left with
Mm.
nothing. So I was telling her, I said, I'm going to send him money now, right? For this child. But I don't want to hear that you spoke to your husband about it. So those are the kind of deep conversations and reality checks I have with them. So by the time we're done, it's like they are now handed over a blueprint and a map to run with. And I've seen it work over and over again. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
answered your question.
Wow. I think one of the most important things that you said, right, is that in depending on who you marry or the individual, they may have grown up in a different space, right, in their household, and it's learned behavior. So one of the things that I believe, that creates these challenges in marriage is not knowing yourself, right?
Mhm.
You have Everybody comes with some kind of baggage, right? And so if you're not willing to look within yourself and make those changes, then it's going to be extremely difficult when you invite somebody else into your life and try to live this thing out. uh we did premarital counseling. Actually, we were already married,
Yeah.
but premarital counseling was something that was truly important to us. And we have this whole story about how we tried to do it before marriage,
Didn't
but
work out at all.
the two pastors just wasn't working out. So we got married, and when we finally were in the same state, we decided to go through the counseling. But one of the things that I learned about myself immediately was I am not a good communicator. And I get angry and I just want to lash out. I don't want to talk about it. So during premarital counseling, it really like hit me like, okay, I have to be very cognizant of having these conversations and making sure I bring up how I feel about things because I'm going to be the issue, right? Because I'm recognizing that I don't like to communicate because I don't like conflict. And so realizing that helped me, right? We have a it was funny. We had our first girl, and his mom was here with us for a year, and she helped out tremendously. So, a lot of things that, other people without help, we didn't have to deal with it. Okay, we're tired. Here's the baby, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, but soon after she left, we were getting ready.
Listen, I was just sitting on the couch, like watching TV, and unbeknownst to me, I'm just sitting there, and she was like, she just came out of the room, like, I'm gonna need your help with this, that, and that. I'm like, okay, because I'm thinking, like, well, where did this come from? Did I mess up somewhere? I don't know what I did wrong here. But it was her way of just
Communicating.
basically ripping the band-aid off
Yes.
and like, hey, this is what I'm gonna need. And I'm like, okay, not a problem. It's my child too, so I have no problem helping out and stuff. And prior, and prior to that, I wanted to say because she gets angry and she didn't want to lash out. I wasn't harmed at all during that, so I'm I'm good. I'm safe.
I was
I am
never abusive.
I am I am secure. Everything's okay this way with that. But yeah, I had to take that in a sense on the chin. I'm like, oh shoot, all right, where it's coming from, but it had to be said.
Yeah.
So she doesn't feel alone in this thing because we are in this together. We made this child together, so this is something we're going to do together.
Yeah, I don't. It was like I'm not really like, it's like one way or the highway, right? So it's like either I say it and I go straight down the middle, or you like tiptoe around it, right? And so it's like I would rather just say how I feel, right? And not in a disrespectful way, but very clear of how I'm feeling, and then we could discuss it. Uh, because a lot of times I feel people will think they say what they're feeling,
Hmm.
um, and then the person is like, "Okay, I hear you, but you didn't really say what you truly meant." And so they're like, "Well, I thought I fixed it. I thought I fixed the problem, but you never really said what was really wrong." So all that to say that communication, what we've learned in the multiple, couples that we've interviewed, is that it's one of the top, you know, issues in a marriage. If you don't communicate, then you're going to struggle, period.
Well, you mentioned that obviously there's a difference in the I guess the culture there in Africa versus here in the U.S. What is it, I guess, like for the most part, but let me rephrase it this way. Although different, it is similar to the point of where, yeah, we may have more, I guess, access to something, or like women may have more access to, things, but that same mindset that men have of where you just saw, well, my dad did it, my uncles did it, it goes on because a lot of that is because one, whoever the father is at the time, or even whoever their friend is, none of them was tied to the word of God. Learning how to be a true man of God, knowing that this is your sister in Christ. She's not, something that like, oh, I need to conquer that. No, that's your sister, and you need to view it as such until that covenant it has been completed. So, and a lot of that is again, although very different, it's literally the same. Because you have some women, like you said here, that may not have the opportunity. The man takes everything, or she's not working, and if he decides to up and go, what's she gonna do? She's stuck. So she gotta somewhat stick it out, whatever it is, take on that sexual infidelity, take on the financial infidelity, she got to take on that heavy burden, and it's not fair to either one of them. That there's, you know, that the person has dominion over the other person, and it's not that way. It's a partnership. You know, we're here to do this thing together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just amazing to me again that people don't, like she said earlier, we don't take inventory of ourselves. You know, we don't realize that sometimes we're the problem and we want to do this. You. But they always say when you're pointing at someone, you got four fingers basically pointing back at you.
Yeah.
So accountability, accountability is what matters in relationship with things.
What would you say are some of the red flags that a person should be paying attention to before they jump into this thing, marriage?
Okay, so I think for me, um, sometimes some people say they are ready to get married, but in reality, they are not ready in the sense that the idea of marriage, they don't have a good foundation or the good definition for marriage. So most time, people need to in the relationship during that phase of relationship and this other person is getting serious, begin to find out what is this person's mindset about
Mm-hmm.
marriage. What is his mindset? What is his blueprint about marriage? And if the other person's, the spouse or the partner's mindset about marriage, it's something that is doesn't have a good foundation, is a red flag. Sometimes people think that don't worry, when we get married, we will. I feel no. That's why premarital counseling comes and the rest. But I feel it's a red flag. So somebody's saying things like, I don't know if my husband doesn't do this, I will just leave him. Or as somebody's already given an idea like there's a way out, divorce is an
Yeah.
option, I feel it's a red flag because I believe that marriage should be till death do us
Hmm.
part. So if you're already having that option, that idea like, I beg, I can't take this one, oh, this is my deal breaker, oh, this is that. The moment you see that, no, is a red flag. So you need to now sit down and discuss about it. That hey, this. Then another thing is value system. So I know that one of the couples that she was talking about that she helped and the rest is the fact that the guy on his own side has been someone that has been sexually active and already has certain mindsets when it comes to sex and the rest. You on the other side, you have a different mindset. So I feel like when this other person's value system is sharply different from
Mm-hmm.
yours, I feel it's also a red
Yes,
flag
it is.
because sometimes it might be the guy or the lady. You think that because when they get married, they will just
Yeah.
change. So maybe this kind of person, this person is the type that usually will go to club, usually will drink out, usually will do other things, and you expect that because you're now married, you will automatically become a
Yeah.
changed man. So I feel like no, it's a red flag. If your value system and their values do not align, then take a break and have a real talk about it. So those are the two I would just say for now. So she can say some other
Yeah.
ones.
That was
All
really
right.
good.
That's
So I
very
think
good.
for me,
Thank you.
red flags, who are his friends? Who are her friends?
Mm.
Right? Who are the people closest to them? So if someone says, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, I believe in His Word, but yet the friends he has are people who have no issues with sleeping around, with, certain lifestyle that is actually um, against God's
Hmm.
Word, that's a red flag because even if the person himself in court is say can speak for himself that he's good, all it takes is for one wrong counsel,
Yeah.
and we see that in the Bible, you understand. So I always tell people that don't be too carried away by the excessive show of love from whoever it is you're with. Be wise enough and let your eyes be sharp to see what is hanging around the person. Who are his friends? Who are the relationships he values? Whose voice is strongest in his life? listen. If you love what comes from there, good. If you don't, that's a red flag. That's a reason and a ground for exit. Because I get asked sometimes that, but I love this person. I'm convinced about this person. As a matter of fact, I'm so sure this person is for me. But I'm like, okay, the same Bible says that wisdom is profitable to what? To
Mhm.
direct. So wisdom says you should you shouldn't. I mean, when you're talking about being yoked, it's you're going in the direction, the same direction with this person, which means that whatever counsel is receiving, you're also gonna receive because it's gonna come to the home. So that's a red flag. And another one is really in terms of their habits, right? The money habits, because that's a major problem right now, to be
Mhm.
honest. um i I mean, because before now people say things like, as long as you pray about it, it's gonna work. But we know it's not true. So in order to avert unnecessary problems in marriage, if you don't like the money habits, it's a ground for a no.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the truth. If Because habits don't change overnight, right? So you don't marry in hope. You marry with the fact that if this person never changes, um, are we cool? So if you can't put your hand to your chest and beat it and say, I'm cool with this, then that's a reason to not go in, even though the person is the best thing that has happened to you since sliced bread. I mean, you live. You say no. So that is a major red flag alongside if a tendency to be loose with the opposite sex. It's so many if we begin to count. It's so many. But everything is really under the umbrella of value
Yeah.
system. If the person's values, first of all, your own value you must be sure your value is your
Mhm.
right. That's another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So you must be able to say I have good values. And so if the person's value system doesn't match up with your own good values, I'm sorry, we can't go, because my belief and yours are not the same. I like you as a person. I was still talking to somebody today and schooling her on how to break up a relationship. I was schooling her because she has to, and I was straight up with her. You have to end this. There's no point.
Yeah.
There's nothing in here again.
Mm.
And be nice about it. It was good while it lasted, but every relationship doesn't have to lead to marriage,
Right.
right? So be be good about it. So that's it for me.
And the best thing about it, especially with that value system, is it says in was that Amos? Yeah, in Amos, how can two walk unless they be agreed? So you said about being equally yoked, got to. You just have to. And what would you say? What would you say to a young couple that's getting ready to get married? What's one of the best advice or some advice you would give them?
Okay, so I think that same mindset of enter into marriage with the mind that this has to work. Enter into the marriage with the mind that till death do us part. And also enter the marriage with the mindset that if your marriage is going to be successful, then both of you have a part to play. And don't think one person is responsible. Sometimes somebody says, my marriage is not the way I want it to be because of my husband. Or the husband say, my marriage is the way it is because of my wife. No, I believe that it takes two to tango, and you can't just blame one person. Be
Yeah.
willing to do your own part. Then, even if the other person seems not to be doing his own part, I also believe that love can win. The Bible says love covers a multitude of
Hmm.
sin,
That's it.
and love can win. So I'll just say that. Then, and also, the two descriptive or description the Bible used for love, it said love is kind and love is
It's
patient.
patient.
So those two things, be kind to your spouse and be patient with the spouse. Every other thing the Bible defined love with, apart from being patient and kind, was saying what love is not. So it was saying love does not envy, love does not do that. But the two things it said is that love is kind and love is patient. If you can be kind to your spouse, I can be patient with your spouse, it can work. And also, marriage is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. In fact, you will live longer if you can live in peace with your
Hmm.
wife. You will live healthier. You will do well financially every way. You'll be able to
Yeah.
raise godly children. You'll be able to raise children that will see their parents love each other, that would
Yeah.
impact future generations. So do the best you can. Invest in your marriage. I've seen some people, the moment they've gotten married, they feel like they've achieved, they just focus on other things, either focus on their career, focus on other things. No, marriage is something you need to invest time, effort, resources into. Because what you invest in, what you focus, what you give energy to, you see the result. So that's what I would advise a young couple that is about to go into marriage.
You know, when you even talked about when you said your children would see the parents, it just occurred to me, right, that my kids, for instance, whenever they see me, they don't see their dad. They ask me, "Where's daddy?" Because psychologically they've seen us together too
Yeah.
Mhm.
much that once they don't see the other person, it's like, where's daddy? Both of them, they're asking. And the same with him. Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's mommy? And it was when he was saying it was so it's really beautiful to think about, like that's what we have
Yeah.
modeled to them, right? So for me, if I'm to give, I just have two, and the first one is pray a lot for your marriage. Pray, invest in prayer. Yes, I'm a counselor, but invest in prayer because the greatest counsel is the one the Holy Spirit gives you for your marriage. That's the truth. And that goes a very long way because it has helped me. I mean, the counsel of the Holy Spirit, it has helped me in my marriage, helped me to be better as a person, and helped me in my relationship with Him, helped me to understand Him better, helped me to understand what He's not even telling me that I can help pray about or manage with wisdom. So pray a lot. Then the second is don't be scared to reach out for counseling. I don't know why people have a mindset. Well, I won't say I don't know why, but I think it's just over time. People believe until I have problems before I go for counseling, but it's not true. Knowledge is never too much at some point because especially if you want to build a marriage that would last. So learn to reach out for counsel. Learn to sit down, read books on marriage. People read books on finance. People read book on management. People read book on church, all sorts. But not too many people read books on marriage and relationship. And even if they read sensational ones that just make them feel
Yeah.
good, as against the one that will equip them to build the marriage. So get counsel, read marriage books. It's never too much. Make a decision once a month. I'm going to read a marriage book
Or
as a
watch videos like this.
and watch videos like this, podcast. I mean, sit down with people like Russian Jackson, the Russian Jackson family. You know, seriously. I mean, I've binged your some of your stuff. You know, and I was really inspired. First of all, I love the synergy between both of you. I love the chemistry. I love the closeness. I love it.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties and stuff, but the way that you described, people should watch this podcast and how the synergy that we have, and we also noticed the chemistry with you guys. This is just a testament of putting in the work, being together as one, and most importantly, doing this thing unto God. God is the center and foremost front runner of our marriage.
Yeah.
Keeping that together is what is the most amazing part to display to anyone, letting our light shine to let them know that, hey, marriage is a beautiful thing, like you stated. It's a wonderful thing to have this covenant, especially before God, and doing it the right way. So it's a wonderful thing that we are able to showcase this.
yeah,
I think one last thing, Ovi, you said it a few times, and it's divorce was never an option. And
Yeah.
I think, when you're gonna go into this thing, you have to tell yourself like this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, till death do us part. Um, and if you're not gonna walk into this with that mindset, then you might as well walk away now.
Exactly.
You can't give up. You can't give up on the first issue, or the many issues, right? Like I'm in this forever. this is my spouse and we're going to work through it. And I just thought that was so important because a lot of people aren't going into the mindset of, this is it. This is end all be all
Mm-hmm.
for me, until, I take my last breath, or my spouse does. Right. And that's, when you have a heart like that, you're going to fight. You're going to fight tooth and nail until you can, make sure that you can push through this thing. And you know what? I have really learned. I've seen it in action, and it's God is so amazing. Is if one spouse, if one spouse does what they need to do, I have seen Him change the heart of the other spouse. But
True.
if you're praying to Him and you're praying for your spouse and you're changing what you're doing,
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again where He has changed the heart of the other spouse, and people are happily married.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So it's about the fight. It's about making the decision like this is it.
True. Because
I guess God did all right putting us together here. You know what I'm
Uh,
saying?
I was even going to say that, one of the things, if I'm going to put like a final word, one of the things that I would say is, leave the do away with the I and replace it with us, which means
Mm.
we're we are working towards something. In, I'm not in this marriage for me. I'm not in this marriage for self. I'm not here just about what I feel. It's about feeling, feeling, feeling. But I'm here to invest in this union.
Yeah.
So I bring something in, and that is commitment. So I bring in my commitment to make the marriage work, to make sure things are good, to adjust, to change, to be better, to be more reasonable, to be patient, whatever it's going to take for the marriage to work, I bring it. And that can only happen if you leave the I, which is not selfish, for the we, which is more self.
Yeah.
So that,
Amen.
Okay.
Well, hey, we like to thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much for joining. It has been a
Trusting,
yeah,
trusting
yeah,
that
and
we weren't
trusted.
crazy people.
thank you.
I'm glad there was proof. I'm glad there was proof. You was like, all right, these guys seem legit. I appreciate you, letting God, do the work in you guys and continue to do the things that you guys are doing. It's wonderful. I'm glad. I'm happy I came across your Instagram to see that, and then to build the courage and the boldness and be like, you know what? I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna just go ahead and do it and see what happens. And look what happened. It's been nothing but greatness. So we definitely appreciate your time with us.
You
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
And we also appreciate both of you. Thank you. To us, we feel like we have new friends that we have met.
Yeah.
I hope it's not that.
No.
Okay, so to us, we feel like we have one friends. I know I have a family now. Which states are you? In US. Which state are you in US?
Texas.
Texas.
So
Yeah.
Oh,
if for
great.
any reason I find myself there, I know I have a family I can call and all that. So that is the joy for me, right? In this, that's the joy that I've won new friends and I have a family here.
Mhm.
So much. Thank you
Yeah, and
so
we
much.
we really want, and that's on our list to come visit Nigeria.
Oh, that would
Definitely
Woo!
be
That
visit.
would be great. That would be beautiful. To be great to have you.
Good.
Thank
Well,
you.
remember to like, share, and subscribe. This has been This Works For Us podcast. Meet the Daniels. Until next time.
What's up, podcast family? We just want to say thank you for tuning in, watching our episodes. We pray that what we are saying is a blessing to you. God placed it on our hearts to share with other married folks and soon to be married folks. So, again, we just pray that it's blessing you.
And stay tuned for the next video. Again, we want to thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for supporting This Works For Us podcast.